Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to talk about simulating errors so that you can keep going no matter what in piano performance. So sometimes we make little mistakes or big mistakes in piano playing, and it either derails the entire performance, like we might not even be able to continue, or we might end up restarting and replaying the area over and over again, so it's very obvious to the people that are watching us that errors are happening. So this is the idea of sometimes, believe it or not, purposely making errors or purposely making mistakes during our performance practice for ourselves so that we're better able to deal with those real life scenarios when they actually come up. And on this channel, I hope to share with you guys strategies, methods, mindsets, etc., often of my own creation, that hopefully will be of help to you in your piano playing and maybe even other areas of your life as well. So I find this has been very effective for both me and my students, where if they make some sort of error while they're playing, and let's say that it really does impact the performance, they miss a note, and it honestly causes them to make a much bigger deal out of it than is actually strictly necessary. They miss a note and then they forget the whole rest of the piece, or they make a little mistake and they have to replay it like 5 or 6 times before they can get out of that little loop. So this idea of, oh, why don't you try purposely recreating that scenario, simulating that scenario, it has seemed to make them much better able to deal with those specific types of difficulties, like that specific note that came up, that specific type of problem. But then even in general, it gets everybody more able to think on their feet. Even if there's like new performance scenarios that come up, they're better able to handle things like on the fly. There's a lot of other ideas on the channel as well too, but I want to focus on this, like simulating mistakes, like purposely making mistakes, basically, obviously not during your entire practice, but during some parts of your performance training or performance practice for yourself. So I'm going to talk a little bit about simulating the exact error that happened to you in performance, or at least something very similar, simulation of small errors in performance, simulation of large errors in performance, and even total blanks in performance when you completely forget everything, or if that happens, of course. And I think in the process, I'll go through some examples of me faking through various passages, some other resources and frameworks as well too. And those things might mix together in the course of the explanation. I don't actually know how elaborate each thing will be. So I thought I would just take the beginning of Fiorellis. Forgive me if there's any buzzing on any of these notes. I think there's some like sympathetic vibration going on, so if you hear a little bit of distortion, hopefully you can still hear the notes fine. So let's say that a student starts playing the piece and they miss a note. Let's see. And just because they miss this one left-hand note, they get totally confused and they end up having to stop. So I know that this might not actually be a real thing, but I think of, and this might be something making up in my head, like samurai movies where it's, you're able to like catch that samurai sword between your hands or between your fingers if you see the same thing again. And I think of that in this way, like we shouldn't be fooled by the same trick twice. So if there was a specific note or a specific type of thing that caused your performance to derail, I think one can be like a master martial artist, not that I'm one, but it should not affect you again a second time. There should be a backup plan that you come up with in order to handle it. So I think the ideal would be to, if you make a mistake, to keep on going without missing a beat or without even missing half a beat. You play the wrong note, but you confidently continue onward with the same exact sound as if you'd meant to do it, of course. So part of the way to practice that is if I played, let's say, a D instead of an E in the bass, well, other than doing my regular good practice, my regular good cold performance training for myself, I'm going to try to purposely play that D the next time around and see if I can't handle it better. So, I purposely missed the note, I played 1 or 2 other wrong notes, and then thankfully I was able to continue out of it because I knew that the next notes were E and G sharp, so I was able to reorient myself back to the correct notes. So part of the reason that students aren't able to continue a lot of the time is because they're really just relying on muscle memory. They don't really have conscious awareness that after this note is actually specifically E and G sharp. They just have a general sense of the gesture. So when you do this, it will force you to, if you're unable to do it at first, check your score again. So it's a very good force function, like, oh, I tried to simulate the error, fake it, and go on, and I wasn't able to. So that made me go back to the music, ascertain, like, oh yeah, it is an E and G sharp, and then think about that in advance as I'm approaching that area. So even when we simulate the wrong note, I'm then able to get back on track almost right away. And I'll talk about this later in the video. Definitely mental practice is very related to your pure conscious. I think it is pure conscious awareness of what it is that you're doing. So if you practice mentally, practice in your mind more and visualize more, it'll be much easier to execute this sort of thing. So anyway, I highly recommend also in general recording yourself, marking areas of your music if they go awry, because those are the areas like you can actually see, like, oh, I actually missed this note at this time, therefore now I can run a simulation of it. Another common thing that happens is just missing like one of the very first notes. So if I play, let's say I'm a student and I start like, I mean that's probably going to completely unnerve me. I started on the wrong key altogether. But I mean, first of all, hopefully we know it's E, D sharp, E, D sharp, E, etc., so that doesn't happen again. But if I really did start on literally the wrong notes, well, that still should not unnerve me if I really were to. So again, number one, definitely I would know it's E, D sharp, etc. I'd be very careful to start there. But then just in case, like, I'm crazy in the moment, I panic, I'm not thinking at all, if I were to start on the wrong notes, I would still want to be able to get out of it as soon as possible. Okay. So this is simulation of the exact error that happens. So if students miss a specific note, a specific area in their music, I should be able to sit at the piano and make exactly the same mistake that they did and then show how I can seamlessly get out of it. Simulation of small errors in performance. So this might be just introducing kind of random errors. So let's say that I purposely will miss a note now and then. Those are relatively larger errors, and I introduce them pretty frequently just for sake of example. But yes, I want this ability, even if I miss a note here and there, in this case it was kind of a lot of them, that I'm able to continue onward seamlessly. Maybe I'll just try missing like one note in the melody. So let's see. So I purposely played like a G instead of an A in my right hand near the beginning. And then, of course, I should be able, as the student or otherwise, to continue onward as if it hadn't happened at all. Larger errors in performance, maybe I was kind of already doing that because I purposely made so many errors. But yeah, if one of your hands drops out completely, or even you get like lost in the moment a little bit, can you get back on track, even if there are bigger errors? And let me see if I can simulate that. So first of all, let's say the left hand is a major issue. So I was able to continue with the right hand with no problem. If the right hand encounters an issue, which would be even worse, continue with with the left hand and just make something up in the right hand and keep going. Now I'm teaching pretty much all serious adults, but when I used to teach children, I would sometimes ask them to like just play random like splashes of notes while I'm playing to try to mess me up, or like take my arms off or hands off. And if I was doing well, then nothing that they could do could affect me in terms of continuing onward in the piece. still singing so that I can keep going even if both hands were to drop out. And I think there's a video I made, something like the strongest memory technique for pianists. It's also the first video of my mental practice playlist on the channel. I talk about how to go about doing that, to use mental practice so that you're able to start from anywhere in the music from memory. Obviously, I'm demonstrating some extremes, and I wouldn't expect students to do exactly what I just did, but that would be simulation of some like larger errors in performance. You could try it maybe with not as much frequency that I just did. Like if you really like drop out one of the hands or you play a lot of wrong notes in one of the hands, can the other one keep going? Well, you get completely lost. Even if you can't do it without losing any time at all, the way I just demonstrated, could you do it with losing as little time as possible? So it's the least noticeable possible to the audience. Then we have the idea of total blanks in performance. So this is something where basically both muscle memory and conscious awareness fail at the same time. So as an aside, my ideal is, well, this is a hypothetical, theoretical ideal, right? It might not actually be real, but that would be perfect muscle memory and perfect conscious awareness. That means even if I'm pretty much unconscious, my hands will keep playing seamlessly. And even if I were to completely like take my hands off or lose my spot, I have perfect awareness and I could start from anywhere in the music. But if both of these, and that's achieved through mental practice, by the way, if you want to see the mental practice playlist on the channel. But if both of those systems fail simultaneously, well, now I'm at a point where, I'm a human, that's possible. I could have a total blank where I don't remember what's next immediately. My fingers are not guiding me either. My fingers and mine both don't know what's next. And so I've got to have backup plans. I tell students this is like break the glass in case of emergency types of plans. For me, I hope it's relatively less likely, but it's still possible. And so I got to be able to like jump to somewhere in the music. So this would be akin to if the student's playing and then they just totally forget. And I just waited for like a few seconds, but you could pretend that it's even longer. Yeah, it's painful for the student, for the audience. The audience is really worried about you or the student or whoever it is. And so you'd better be able to jump right to, maybe just playing that part again, maybe right to the... So if you have a total blank in performance, do you have, and to me this is one of the most rudimentary of memory techniques, but it's still important. If that were to happen, can you jump instantly to that area? You just jump right there, or maybe it's even a bigger slip. Okay, so for example, even on the first page of Your Release Alone, you might have 4 spots, you might have 8 different spots that you can jump to, and you can arbitrarily designate them spots 1 through 8 if you like. And can you start from spot number 2 right away? Can you start from spot number 3 right away? Can you start from spot number 7 or whatever it may be right away? This way, if you are under pressure in the moment, you have a total blank, at least you have this like backup plan. Worst case scenario, so that you won't lose the entire rest of the piece. Now, if you do lose the entire rest of the piece, I think it's proper decorum to kind of just trail off like you meant to do it. Take your hands off, sit here for a few seconds. And then it's over. So you don't lose your composure and start talking to the camera or the audience right away. And yeah, well, I think that was already plenty of examples of me faking through various passages and so on. Even if it's more advanced students, it's still the same. Actually make that many mistakes when I'm playing the Revolutionary Etude, but I'm just pretending or simulating to like forget my right hand, forget my left hand, And that's totally possible. That could happen even to semi-professional or professional pianists. And then obviously I might miss things, not because of memory, but just because, I had some inaccuracies. And so I just got to do something. And sometimes in this simulation, it wasn't even faking that was that great, because I kind of stopped playing. I'd probably try to, like if there's 16th note passages in the left hand, for example, I'd probably at least move my fingers more and play some more 16th note sounding things, so that I can get back on track instead of drop out too much of it, if at all possible. And let me see if I can do this low-tech screen sharing for a moment, because as you guys know, I'm up to this point at least, maybe it'll change in the future, I'm not really trying to heavily edit these videos, or at all really. So I had this occasion recently where I was playing an outdoor piano. I don't know if any of you saw this YouTube short, but I was playing the Mozart Velotos Turkish March, which is basically a really crazy version of Mozart's famous Turkish March. And I discovered that the top 3 keys of the piano were missing. Like literally the highest, like I think B flat, B, and C on the piano weren't even there. And so I had to just think really fast on my feet. Let me see if I can just share this. So this is my YouTube shorts here, and let's see if I can. I suddenly realized the top 3 keys weren't there. So I had to pretend the keys were, so they're actually not there right now. So my pinky was literally on that yellow part. And this was a piano in Midtown Manhattan. So I just had to move my right hand down an octave. It's usually higher. And I just had to react pretty much right away. And I was really surprised, even if it doesn't look like I was. So again, here you can, oh, whoops, sorry. That's not gonna be relevant to this. So you can see if you look closely, my pinky was actually touching that part. And then this part, I just had to make something up real quick here. Just played some random stuff. And then I continued down an octave. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I've done so much simulation of making errors that I was just demonstrating to you guys. So, and I never encountered that scenario before, but because I've become so versatile, not that it's impossible for me to stop, but it was just my automatic reaction. It was like a habitual thing that I just do something and keep going. In fact, when I was at NYU as a student during my undergrad, I remember one time there was a fire alarm that went off, and I was in the middle of doing some performance practice, and my first reaction was I actually continued playing, and I was looking out the window of these little practice rooms, because I was just trying to determine if it's a real fire or not. Because if it's not a real fire, that I'm just going to keep playing. And I don't actually remember if I had to leave the building or not. But the fact that that was my first reaction tells you how seriously I take the idea of continuing onward no matter what. I mean, obviously, if it's a real emergency, then you should stop playing. So so keep that in mind. Anyway, in terms of additional resources, I'm a little bit slow sometimes to update the playlists, admittedly. Sorry about that. But there are some videos that I just added to my performance training or performance playlist on the channel. Some of them are called what to think to yourself before performing piano. So that mindset part may make a really major difference. Lots of different examples of thoughts that you think before you start that could really impact your ability to keep going. Because here I'm talking about simulating errors, but you might be wondering hey, if I can't simulate these errors, how do I go about doing that? And these resources and things that I'm saying now, it will improve your ability both to simulate errors, like I demonstrated in this video, and to just perform well in general. So whether it's that the performance is already going way better to begin with now, or that it makes it easier for you to do this simulating errors strategy that I was describing in the course of this whole video. So what to think to yourself before performing piano. Also, how to perform for anyone, anywhere, anytime. That one's a classic. I think it gives a lot of really practical advice about playing when it's freezing cold, playing when you're sweating, playing on outdoor pianos, playing with the lights off, lots of different ideas for those sorts of performance challenges, cold performance and other things. And there was another video that part of it was called like Fake Through Mistakes and Always Keep Going. I think it was like Performance Etiquette Part 2, Fake Through Mistakes and Always Keep Going. So you can search for these plus my name, David Chang, or you can go to my like performance or performance training playlist. And this might seem like a weird or, pretty broad, big thing to say, but seriously, all of the different like videos and playlists on the channel, they all help your ability to perform and to simulate errors, like for this strategy, in different ways. So I talked about mental practice extensively. My entire mental practice playlist, it is tied to your pure conscious awareness. So like, if you were wondering, like, how did you keep playing when you like completely dropped out your left hand or you completely dropped out both hands? It's because of my ability to visualize the next parts. So it's like I psychically know how to continue no matter what if I do the mental practice really well. So definitely you can look at that. There's the performance practice or performance training playlist. I forget what it's called. My whole logical methodology playlist, like if you're practicing hyper-granular, tiny little detailed sections, it forces awareness of all these different areas. You literally start from many different areas in your music, both in separate hands. So that granular practice itself, believe it or not, is related to this top level bird's eye view, which is in some ways what I think of performance as. And my physical methodology, ideas like holding and relaxing, and three-dimensionality and movement, metronome cycling, the all out with accents. I mean, there's a lot of different concepts there. Each of those concepts are really deep, but it should be said, like, intellectualization alone is not enough. Like, we actually want to physically teach our bodies how to play really nice and solidly. And anyway, I'll just go on and on if I keep talking about this. So suffice to say that the physical methodology playlist, like just in terms of your actual body awareness itself, it will also give you the ability to, or help your ability to keep going no matter what, and also to simulate errors should you want to use this strategy. And I have another thing that I think of as a methodology, like my logistical methodology, where I am writing all of the fingering, sometimes even planning all of the crescendos, decrescendos, pedaling and everything if I can. That also helps a great deal. And absolutely consistent fingering, I think, is crucial in really, really good memory overall. Like, it helps a great deal. And I'm a little crazy about it. I'll write like every single fingering for every single note in the whole piece. So anyway, hope you found this useful or interesting. Hope you explore these additional resources and everything and see the different lenses through which your performance abilities in general and your ability to simulate errors can improve. And I hope that these examples were enlightening too. And I wouldn't try to do like tons of crazy simulations. Just start with even purposely missing one note, see if you can get out of it. It is like improvisation, like you're playing something and then you're making up something in the other hand. Because if something were to go wrong, you would want to be able to react quickly enough, respond quickly enough to it to still know what you're doing overall. And that's why this simulation of errors is so powerful, so that when the real thing happens, you are already prepared physically, mentally, emotionally to deal with whatever may arise. So yeah, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, let others know about the channel if you did find this useful, interesting, and looking forward to the next one.